Well, hello out there. I assume you can hear me. If you can hear me, if you would type yes in the chat window. Excellent. And welcome to Management 290. This is the online version of Management 290. This semester it'll be kind of a combination of asynchronous and synchronous type of instruction. I was working on the class today, and so I'm slowly kind of getting it fleshed out and moving some things over. This is the Adobe Connect, the Adobe Pro Connect environment that you are in. You should have let's see, let me look and see if I can do student view. I want to look at yeah, I need my audio. Okay, can you hear me now? Yeah, okay. I got to quit switching screens. When I do that, it just messes up all of my configurations. So, this is the Adobe Connect meeting environment, and you can run classrooms out of here. You have the ability to interact with me both using audio, or you can let's see, because I'm not in speakerphone mode right now. Does anybody out there have a microphone? Yeah, does anybody have, Gretchen, do you have a mic? Oh, cool. Okay, well, let me see. I'm going to enable you. So you should have audio rights now, microphone rights. So see if you can actually say something, Gretchen. We may have a little bit of a delay.
Can you hear me?
Absolutely, I can hear you.
This
And
is
very,
Chelsea.
very nicely, very clearly.
This is Chelsea
Everyone
from
hear that?
Gretchen.
Very good. So if you have a microphone, you can chime in and ask a question. There usually is a bit of a delay with those questions, but you certainly can do that. You also can use the chat box that you have now. Now, I really don't pay attention to the chat box. Let me start my webcam back up again. I really do not pay attention to the chat box. That's kind of it's there and students can use it. You can chat with each other. You can, I do look at it for small kind of indications of whether or not, if I do something kind of dumb, like I'm no longer sharing my screen. I look down here occasionally, and usually something will pop up and you'll tell me, hey, I'm not sharing my screen. The Q&A box down at the bottom is for you to ask questions in an anonymous fashion. When you enter the questions in, it pops up on my screen, and as different people add them. So if you have something you want to ask a question about, then I will look, it will show up on my screen, and I will answer the question. And most of the time, I'll answer it, and I won't attach a name to it. I'll just address the question itself. So it's kind of a way for individuals to kind of anonymously inquire if they don't understand something. So just keep that in mind. Q&A, that's for questions you're directing specifically to me. And it's a nice wide screen, so your question typically only takes one line. Very easy for me to read. Whereas in the chat window there, where everybody's chatting, you have more than, you don't have a lot of space, and everything kind of gets bunched up. I've got a couple of views here. I've got another view that you'll see in a moment. Probably near the end when I take the roll today. And that view is just a view where I go and I have a poll, and you indicate whether you were here today or not. Okay, so again, to reiterate my announcement, this is the only required systems course for all JCB students. It is a lower level course. It doesn't mean it's any less important than any other course, but your mandatory minimum grade for any lower level business course is a D, although I'm not encouraging any of you to aspire to that grade. You can actually earn a D in the course. This course is a fairly work-intensive course. You have the component associated with studying the systems concepts, and then you have the Excel concepts. The prerequisite for this course is Computer Science 138. It can be 150. It can be 101 or 170 from the community colleges, either one, because those are the equivalent of Computer Science 138. And all of these meet the prerequisite for this course. This course, in turn, is the prerequisite for Management 390. It makes extensive use of two McGraw-Hill cloud-based products. So we're going to be using Connect and SimNet SimGrader. And Connect, there'll be some assignments along the way. But there'll certainly be. I use LearnSmart lessons, which really are one of the issues that I've discovered that a lot of students don't do in this class is they do not read, and they expect information to be provided to them from presentation material and no other content to be covered. Well, that's not this course. You need to read the text. It's background information. You will see questions on the text as well as on the information that I cover in lecture. So you do need the text, you do need the book, you do need the Connect license, at least for this class. I do think we have one, maybe faculty who's teaching that, and I'm not sure. Someone told me they weren't requiring it. However, I am. SimNet SimGrader is another McGraw-Hill software platform. You may or may not have to buy that. If you had if you took Computer Science 138 here at USC Upstate in the last year, starting last fall, then you can, if you will let me know, I can transfer that license over to this class. Can't do it with Connect, but I can do it with SimNet SimGrader. Again, I'll be linking these platforms. They link with Blackboard. Your work, your assignments will be integrated into the Blackboard gradebook. Now, the Blackboard gradebook is for your information only. Ultimately, I move all of my grades. I'll export those grades out of the gradebook and into an Excel spreadsheet. In the case of examinations, these are those exams. The 3 in-semester exams are online, and then you have a classroom final. Today we will be, again, introductions. We'll be looking at the syllabus, and we'll be discussing class processes and procedures. So let's take a look. So over here to the left you have, and you'll be seeing things added. As you can see, you've got learning modules associated with exam number 1 in there now. Those learning modules, the first 2, Business 1, that plug-in Business 1, and Business Basics. And that's basically an overview of business, the different business models, the LLC, limited liability corporation, sole proprietorship, partnerships. We look at different financial documents, discuss those, what they are, balance sheet, income statement, statement of earnings, and then we'll be talking about business processes. So you'll need to read plugins B1 and B2 for Thursday. And if you click on the Learn Smart modules, you will note here you have a PowerPoint associated with plugin B1. And you have a Learn Smart lesson that is due on August the 29th. Now, these lessons are due right now by 6 o'clock. I'm probably going to continue with this time. This class will meet in the evening time. So, okay, so click to launch. Okay, so anyway, so it looks like I noticed somebody was already in there actually doing it. So anyway, we will probably meet in the evening times is my guess. I usually take a survey, and I intend to do that this week. I'll take a survey and find out when students can meet. And typically in this class, the most popular time tends to be in the evening, I think, because I have a significant percentage of individuals who actually work. So each one of these modules will have, as you can see, you've got learning objectives associated. You've got, in this case, I'm still using Prezis for presentations, and then you have the Learn Smart lessons for each one, and you see the due date, August 29th, 6 p.m. for the Learn Smart lesson. Again, I'll be adding these. I actually already have the lessons. However, many of them have old due dates. I created a number of these over the summer, so I've got to change those due dates. That means I need to synchronize and reassign the lessons. So the modules for exam 1, as you'll see, the hardware and software module does not currently have any Learn Smart lessons, but it will have. So look for that to show up soon. Again, introduction to information systems. You got the prerequisites. My office is the George, room 207. I'm also the chair of the Management, Entrepreneurship, and Marketing Department for this year. I'm interim chair. So sometimes it may take me a little while to get back with you because I'm typically kind of busy. Office hours, Monday through Friday, 11 to 12. Now, I also have advisement appointments then, so I've kind of reserved that office hour for seeing students. So I've got a link here that you can register for an appointment with using your Blackboard credentials. Now, just FYI, there are several username and passwords that you can use for Blackboard, and I'm aware of that. You have a VIP username and password. You have a USC, not USC Upstate, USC username and password. That typically is something like your last name and then the initials of your first and middle name, and maybe a number if it's a common last name. Like mine is Smith TB2. And then I have a password. You'll have to figure out what that is, because it does have to be your username and password. This system is called SARS. We're using SARS for the fall. We're pretty certain SARS is going away in the fall. I mean, it'll be here for the fall, but by the next time spring rolls around, it'll be gone. But for your purposes, if you have trouble logging in here to make an appointment, let me know, and I can manually set you up one. So again, I gave you a link if you want to know what your USC network username and password is. You see down here, what is my USC ID? And so you can log in here, use your VIP ID, put your last 4 digits of your Social Security number, legal last name, date of birth, and then your CAPTCHA phrase down there at the bottom. Enter that information in, and it'll tell you what your USC username is, and you can go in there and actually change your password. Office phone, best way to reach me is email. Send me an email. Give me about 24 hours. Usually I'll get back to you fairly quickly, but if you wouldn't mind, give me a little time. It may take me a day to get back. It shouldn't take me more than that at all. As you can see, this is a very broad course. It covers a lot of topics, not a huge amount of depth. We talk about hardware and software basics, encoding. We'll look at encoding standards for computers. In other words, when you hit a letter on a keyboard, what is that sending to the microprocessor? Well, it's sending binary information, organizations of binary information, which are ones and zeros, and that information is organized to represent A's, B's, capital A's, the letters 0 through 9, and all of the symbols that we use in our language. We'll look at the World Wide Web, the Internet, and how important this global network, coupled with the World Wide Web technology, has been to the enterprise. We'll be talking about competitive advantage. Information systems are used for competitive advantage by companies. Companies do not invest in information technology for the fun of it. They invest in technology to maintain sustainable competitive advantage over their competitors. Yes, if you systemically invest in an ongoing fashion in technology, it doesn't have to be the latest cutting edge technology, but it needs to be the technology, the utilization of technology to align with your business model. Excuse me, I apologize for that. I'm going to turn my volume down so that doesn't happen again. We'll be looking at various information systems strategies using systems to reduce cost, using strategies to differentiate ourselves, using strategies to focus and specialize. And we're looking at some business models that really, we'll be looking at businesses that over time have used all of those strategies. It's really not that uncommon to use those. You don't use them all at one time, but at some point in the evolution of the organization, they've relied on those. We'll be talking about database technology, networking and telecommunications technologies, different technologies. Having a little conversation about business intelligence, what it is. We'll be talking about an enormously important field today, analytics, which is predicated on the advanced use of information technology and applied statistics and big data to accurately predict, for example, when an event will occur and associate a probability with that. We'll be looking at various enterprise class systems, customer relationship management, enterprise resource planning, supply chain management, IT infrastructure and strategies, systems development methodology, social and ethical issues associated with modern systems. Modern systems afford some organizations and individuals advantage over other individuals. They also represent new capabilities that current law was never written to address. For example, modern privacy issues. There's certainly a lot of gray areas, certainly a lot of empty areas in the law as it relates to how government and organizations can utilize information to learn about constituency, their customers, for example. Think health insurance companies who, before underwriting or selling a policy to an individual, goes through a process of assessing the risk that individual represents, because ultimately insurance companies are in business to make money. They would prefer to sell a policy to someone who ultimately may not use that policy or will use it not that much. For example, if they have very few health issues and they sell, health insurance on the open market or through the ACA, healthcare exchange, then if they can determine that individual is, by data analysis, genetically at greater risk, then that might raise the cost they're going to charge that individual, or they may actually exclude that individual from buying that life insurance or buying that health insurance. And all of this, this capability is predicated on those organizations having access to information which may reside not only in their databases but in third-party databases that are actually business models that sell them that data. And then if we have time, we'll look at some emerging trends and technologies. The general goal here is to make students aware of the variety and importance of information systems within the business enterprise, as the role that information technology plays continues to expand, to evolve and expand, and as the role of systems continues to evolve and expand within organizations and society. This class is typically cited by interns who, and I do encourage each and every one of you, if you have the opportunity, when you're a senior, to work in an internship, then I encourage you to do so, because, again, this is one of those courses that is cited by a lot of interns who come back and do their presentations as one of their more important courses, because they find themselves, I don't think it's necessarily the instructor, I think it's because they find themselves immersed in systems and software when they go out and work in organizations. So our objectives are very clear. We want students to build a basic understanding of the value and uses of systems for companies and for the people who work in those companies. We want students to understand what innovative companies are doing today with information systems technology, and how the current business environment and the advancement of technology is changing organizations. Because if you're an organization and you are competing with another organization that has revised their business model, that has implemented a new and innovative way of, for example, evaluating consumer risk, or selling products, then you're going to have to change your organization, or you're going to lose sales, you're going to lose customers, you're going to lose, and your workers are going to leave you. So if you're not keeping up, it doesn't mean you have to be cutting edge, but it does mean that if clearly you have, and we'll talk about what processes are in Business Plug-in too. If you have inferior processes, whether they're customer-facing processes, whether they are business-facing processes, whether they are processes associated with key activities like manufacturing or operations, marketing. If you have inferior processes, you're either going to change your game, you're going to up your game, or you're going to have to get out of the game. We will talk some about ethical issues and security challenges posed by today's technologies. Technologies are very cool, but extending functionality to your customers through a mobile phone represents problems and potentially security and ethical problems, because if they're running Android or they're running Apple, these large companies like Amazon, like Google, they collect information. I don't know if you've installed any, I know you've installed applications on your phones, and you'll notice when these, a lot of times they ask you they want your locational information, they want your communication information when they install it, well, that information is being shared. So, extending functionality to your customers, to your clients through mobile devices is an example of, these platforms are mobile, they're not secure, they represent potential ethical issues in terms of the amount of data that can be collected. Because one of the things that can be collected with a mobile phone is, where are you? if you have location-based services running on your phone, that is, you have GPS running on your phone, you've now added an extra valuable dimension to your data. Where are you? Now, ultimately, the goal is to empower you, the student, with essential knowledge to be successful and useful in your career in the use and understanding of information technology and information systems. It is not designed for a systems major, although by the time we're finished with this class, I'm sure a number of you are going to swear that it is, but it's not. It is being designed for people who expect to be managerial end users or information systems. But at the end of the day, I have to make decisions on what I think you need to know. And so, in the world of education, invariably, that when you're talking about a discipline like information systems, where there's so many facets to the system, it's going to seem like an awful lot of information. And then, later on, sometime in the future, we could probably have an argument over whether you needed to learn all of this stuff. But I think it's important, even if you're not going to be a technology worker, you're going to be a user of it. Again, required resources. You need a Connect license, and I think that I need to update this. Yes, no, I don't. Okay, I did update that link. That's good. So that is your sign-in. So you enter your USC Upstate email to join the class. So this is the link to the fall 2018 class. So we're good there. SimNet is a little different. Okay, so looking at SimNet. SimNet SimGrader, the link takes you to the login page. And as you can see, it knows what my username and password is. You can buy the SimNet license online, or you can register with a code that you buy at the bookstore. Of course, if financial aid is involved, then you need to purchase the license at the bookstore and then apply that license or register it. You can also request courtesy access. Now, hopefully my explanation for what that means is, I think it's a 14-day license. So you click on courtesy access. Do you attend USC Upstate? Yes. My advice is, don't tell it you already have a username, even if you do. Just create another one. Or if you know what your username was, then you can use that. But generally, I just tell students, make up another username. Should be some numerical name. It's good if you can kind of follow the same naming convention that I gave you. Last name, first name, first initial of your last name, and then maybe a number or two just if you've already used that. So do you already have a SimNet online username? No. Check your box. This is very much the same process you're going to go through if you're purchasing online. Very important here, make sure, as you can see, we have a lot of sections of 290 this semester. Now, I'm only teaching one of these, and you want to make sure that you register for the right section. You don't want to end up in the wrong section, because otherwise I'm not going to know you're there, and you may get a big egg or a 0 for your SimNet work. So it's going to be the 3W. This is the web version. And if you don't have a registration, you see you have a registration code. Here's where you put in your registration code from what you bought at the bookstore. If you need a courtesy license, you check the box. and you activate the license, and then you put your personal information in, your username and password, and confirm the password. And again, my advice is make up a new username and password, and then you finish. Now that courtesy license will last 14 days, and then once 14 days have passed, any work you have done becomes invisible to me. Now I have had one or two students do this in the past. They then go in and they do another courtesy license. Well, and then they do 14 more days worth of work. That works, but not very well, because your second courtesy license is not associated with your first one. So I can't see your older work. I only see your latest 14 days. So, I mean, my point is, the way it's set up, you're going to have to purchase the license, or again, transfer the license. If you, as I said, if you use SimNet SimGrader in Computer Science 138, then please send me an email indicating that you did, so that I can go in and find you, and I will assign that license to this class. Okay? So again, if you have used Computer Science 138 if you have used SimNet in Computer Science 138 in the last year, please email me and indicate as such, and I will go in, and I should be able to find you in the student database and assign you to this class, and you will not have to buy that license. The text for this book is one of two options. You can buy the bundle at the bookstore, and I think they have the bound version of the text, so it's actually a physical copy. There's also an electronic version of the text online that comes with the Connect license. Or you can rent the text. I know there are some people out there who want a hard copy text. You could potentially rent it, but again, by default, I was trying to save students money. I knew I was going to require the software platforms, but getting the text for free seemed like a bonus. You need access to Blackboard. You'll see in Blackboard the links. You see over here to the left, you see the menu options for SimNet, SimGrader, and Connect. So certainly you need Blackboard for this course. Also, you need access to a computer with Office Professional 2016. Now, that does not mean you should go out and buy 2016 if you don't have it. You can go online and install Office 2016 through your email. Let's see. There we go. So you can go here. Now this is my Outlook. And you can go online and sign up, I think. Now I've got Office 365. Let's see. Here we go. Trying to find, there is a way to go in. The university allows you to, I'll see if I can find it. It's a little bit, I don't know, it looks a little different now. Obviously, you can use Office 365 online. That's one option, but now Office 365 online does not have, it has Excel. It does not necessarily have Access. We're not going to be using Access, but it does have Excel, which is something you will need. But you can install, you have a free install through the university, and I will find that link and make the instructions available for you. I think it's accessible through the university website. So you can install it locally on your Mac or on your PC. You can also use Spartan GreenSky. And if you want to know what that is, you probably use it every day, and I actually need to create a link for that. So let's see. I do not see that. That is interesting. Okay, so let's get a link up there. Let me get a link. Go ahead and create that now. So I'm going to add a link, tool link. Oh, I need a web link. There we go. Spartan GreenSky is the name of it, and that is USC Upstate's virtual computing platform. I guess I'm gonna have to put it in. Let's copy it. There it is. All right. So I'll put this link in here, and then that'll fix that. Okay, so where did that show up? I guess a little lower there. There it is. Show the link. So here we go. All right, so I'm going to put this down here. All right, so that's Spartan GreenSky. And this is the view that you have, I believe. So you click on Spartan GreenSky and brings you to this interface. Now, you can do one of two things here as a student. You can install a client on your machine, or you can just run it in a browser. So I'm going to run this in a browser here, and you'll notice I get an authentication page. My username and password. And now I'm going to log in. Now I have a number of images here. More than likely, you're going to have a number, but one of them will be the student Spartan GreenSky image there. So I'm going to pull up the student image, and it's literally a computer inside of your browser. So if you haven't used this before, but you can do your work here. And apparently they've been updating, I guess they've been updating the software. So anyway, you notice you have Excel on this. You also should be able to work off of a flash drive. And so if you have a solid state or one of those little flash drives, you can plug it into your machine, and you can work off of this virtual machine. And as you'll see when I talk about SimNet, you have to have Office 2. For the projects in SimNet that you're going to see, you have to have Office 2016. And because if you have it in another version and you submit it, you're going to error out on when it tries to grade it. So just FYI, this is an option. Working on a virtual machine. You see me pulling up Excel here. Okay, so you can work from here. This machine also has access to the internet. So this virtual machine is, pulling up the internet like anything else. Okay, so that's Spartan GreenSky. So that's an option. Well, you've been introduced to Adobe Connect virtual meeting software. Again, class will be either in the form of short pre-recorded video segments and I am recording this lecture as we go now. Now, what I do when this lecture is over, I take this lecture and I convert it into an MP4 file. And then I run that MP4 file through YouTube. And YouTube has some pretty good captioning technology because video has to be captioned today. And so it takes a little while for that to happen. Usually I will make the video available the next day. Let's see. Hang on just a minute. Calendar. I need to go ahead and make a link. I had somebody ask me about this today. Said, where is your course calendar? Well, I have it. Anyway, I have a course calendar, and I actually don't have my Gmail password. What is that? I think I've got it right here. Yeah, here we go. Oh yeah, that's a long password. I tell you what, I'll make the calendar available a little later when I can copy that password. I don't want to sit here and try to type that in. Anyway, there will be a link in Blackboard. I thought I'd already made it available. There will be a link to a calendar right here under the menu options. And it will be a Google Calendar. And that Google Calendar will have what we're going to be doing on a day-to-day basis. But you also can kind of see what we're doing. You've got learning modules. And so Business Plug-in 1 is first. And you see your objectives. What are the 3 common forms of business? Describe the 7 departments common to most organizations. And you'll also be learning a little bit about financial statements. You've got a presentation there. And then, of course, you've got a Learn Smart lesson that is due on August the 29th, which is Wednesday, and it will be due, as you can see, at 6 p.m. So you need to have read Business Plug-in 1 and 2 and done the Learn Smart lessons by 6 p.m. on Thursday. So that's your first order of business. I need to change. There is an attendance. It's not a grade. I need to really change that. There is an incentive for this class. So I'm going to change. I will change the language in this document. I want to make sure everybody understands that attendance, while not mandatory, I do have an incentive for you to attend class. In the online class, I'm going to change the standard a little bit. You're going to have to attend all but 2 of the class sessions. Now, however, I'm going to change the definition of the word attendance. I'm going to make each one of the videos of my lectures, my class sessions available. and they will be available over the course calendar. You may view them even though you may have class, you may view those lectures after the fact. Now, every Saturday, I'm going to check the way those. I'm getting ahead of myself. The way that content is ultimately going to be delivered, I deliver it. Those video links will be made available through the university's TechSmith Relay platform. So it's a cloud-based. It's a cloud where ultimately I'll take these captioned videos from YouTube and I'll move them to the TechSmith platform, and then from there they'll be accessed. It will require you to log in using your student university ID and password. It will collect metrics on whether or not you go in and view it. Now, I will count you present if on Saturday I go in and look at the metrics and I see that you have viewed 90, most of I'm going to say 95% or more of the video, the metrics will tell me that. They'll give me a percentage. So 95% or more, then you'll get credit for having attended the class, even if you were not able to physically attend the class. I'm doing this because attendance of some kind is critical for this class. The language of technology or information systems is chock full of terms that you will not see in everyday life. It's kind of like, the practice of law has its own language. The practice of medicine has its own language. The occupation of engineering has its own language. The same thing with information systems. A language all unto its own. So I would, all of my research, and I analyze this, and I add to the data set every semester. When students take this class, they have to, they need to attend class, because there is an absolute gold standard relationship between attendance in this class and how you do in the class. It is not something that I do by manipulating grades whatsoever. I don't. If you read the attendance incentive, what you'll note is that it's not very much. Basically, what I do is, in calculating the incentive, let's see if I can pull up a spreadsheet here. Yeah, it's like I take a little weight off of the final. So I'm going to pull up an Excel spreadsheet here, and we'll just calculate it. So we're going to zoom a little bit, 200%. So let's say that your final exam is worth 25% of your final grade. Okay? And it's actually not worth 25%. I think it's worth 23%. 23 or 22%, maybe. No, it's 23, I think. Well, we have it in the syllabus. Let's take a look at it. Here we go. 22%. Very good. So it's worth 22%. So if you score a 70 on the final, that's going to add, beg your pardon, say something?
Coach!
I'm hearing a little.
There you are, man.
Talking?
So you finna go get something. I'm gonna give me a shout after this shit. Huh? Yeah, it's been telling me. No.
Hello,
I'm
somebody's
finna
got
get a
their
shower.
microphone. Okay, I turned the audio off right now. If you want to talk, that's fine, but I'll turn the audio off. If you want to say something, let me know and I'll turn the audio back on. Yeah, somebody had their mic on. That's right. So anyway, so 70%. Now, if you have attendance credit, if you I have determined that you have either viewed all the lectures or attended class and missed only 2 days or less, then I will take your final exam now is worth 17% of your final grade. And you made a 70 on the exam. And that's 11.9 points. Now, that 5% is like taking a quiz that you earned a 100 on. So I'm going to add plus 5 to that. That's the 5 points that your quiz is worth, and now it's 16.9%. So it's about 1.5 points. It's not a huge amount, but every semester I see people's grades who go from an F to a D, from a D to a C, from a C to a B, from a B to an A, every semester. So it's an incentive. Now, how do you do just as well? Make a 76 on your test. Actually, you got to make about a 77, it looks like. Score a 77 on your final exam, and the outcome is identical. Absolutely the same. Okay? So this is no incentive. Or no credit. And this is with credit. All right. Okay, so that's the that's the attendance incentive, and I'm going to change this language because I always have people who worry about whether or not they're being they're being penalized. You're not being penalized. And I do need to change this. Notice this. I've got 4 points. I'll change that to 5. I need to change that language. And then you also have the option, if you're kind of hung up on this attendance credit, which to me, honestly, I would much rather, if I know that I'm not going to earn the attendance credit one way or the other, I would much rather just, work on work on or preparing for the examinations. It's not going to make a huge amount of effort to score an additional 7 points on your final exam. You also can do research on a project, some sort of MIS topic. If you decide you're going to do that, do it early on. And honestly, I'm probably going to take this option off because, again, I'm going to be looking on a regular basis, and you can either attend the class live, or you can attend the class. You can exhibit evidence that you're going through and viewing all the lectures, one or the other. I've got some percentages I need to change here, so I'll be changing those. But the final exam, and you see the grading rubric here, your final exam is worth 22% of your grade. Your 2 in-semester exams are going to be worth 16.5. That is your 2 highest in-semester exams. There will be 3 end semester exams. One of them is going to float. So if you do very poorly on one exam, it'll be worth 10%, and the other two will be worth 16.5. Your Connect assignments, and there's no reason you should not make a 100% on your Connect assignments, but I will tell you that I have a lot of students who do not, are worth 12%. Your SimNet assignments are worth 23%. So if you look at your exams are 33 and 25, that's 50. Your exams are 65% of your grade total. SimNet assignments are 23, Connect assignments are 12 for a total of 100%. And when I get back, as I said, I've got some language in this syllabus. I need to change some numbers. So look for that to change, because I've changed the percentages, and I changed them in the rubric, but I didn't change them in the language in the syllabus. For example, here I have an evaluation of students. Your grade is based on your exam grades being 78%. They're no longer 78% of your grade. They're 65%. So less weight on the exams, more weight on, some activities. Let's see. All right, so exams. Now, on the online environment, I usually set up the exams for 2 periods. Let me show you your calendar. Oh, that's right, I can't go to the calendar. I forgot about that. I'll have to, I'll make the calendar available when I get back into my office. Okay, so I have 2 of these windows open. All right, so let's see, with syllabus, where are we at? Okay, here we go. So your exams are typically they'll have a 2-day window. So you'll have 2 days to take it. Now the exams are set up, the online exams are set up. You have a certain amount of time to take them, and I have a formula that I use for determining what that time is. I assure all of you that it is fair if you know your material. It is time limited. The questions are presented one at a time. You may navigate back and forth in the exam, but you are kind of limited there. So it does kind of force you to answer each question as you go. But I do allow you to navigate back in case, you go to a new question and realize, wow, okay, so this one applies to this. He would not ask 2 questions on this, so I'm going to navigate back and I'm going to pick the other answer because I was unsure about this to begin with. So you can do that. So I don't restrict you from going back and forth. But it is online. It's 1 question at a time. It's time limited. And it takes some getting used to. So I often have, especially in exam 1, students who run out of time. The final exam, and let me go ahead and state this, will show up on the calendar, and it will be in a classroom. So the final exam will be in a classroom. It will be delivered as a conventional, traditional examination. Paper. It will be a paper examination. There will be no materials. You will have no access to anything. So it is important that you prepare honestly and thoroughly for these exams as you go forward, because the final exam is worth 22% of your grade, and it is a cumulative final exam with a broad array of topics. Just FYI. If for some reason you have to miss an exam, I do not give makeup exams. I will take the weight of one of your exams and transfer that weight to your final. That weight automatically becomes 10%. So your other two online in-semester exams are 16.5 points each. Your final is now worth 32% of your grade. But I don't do makeup exams. And I will transfer the weight of one missed exam to the final exam. Anything after that, you miss 2 exams, you get a 0 on the second exam. Unless there are some extraordinary circumstances involved. And I do, for example, you missed an exam because you were sick, and then you were involved in a head-on collision. That's a whole different array of circumstances. I hope that doesn't happen to anyone here, by the way, but okay, just to give you an idea. The standard's kind of high. I mean, I don't accommodate people missing exams very often. And when I do, it has to be an extraordinary case. I wanted to point out you do have 2 requirements that you have to meet for passing this. And those requirements are missing for some reason. I didn't realize that. Oh, here they are. Yeah, your exams are going to be on the systems concepts in this class. You got to have sufficient mastery of primary material, databases, ERP systems, everything in the text is on the examinations. I call that primary material. So you have to show a mastery of primary material. And I define mastery. Sufficient mastery of primary material. You have to have, and it's rather a low bar, I'd like to point that out, but I do have students every semester who don't make it. You have to have a passing unweighted average of 59.5 or higher on your 3 highest exam scores. That is a fairly low bar, folks. Now, I'm not trying to encourage anyone to aspire to this. What I'm trying to tell you is, the exams are kind of tough. They cover a lot of material. You really need to read. You need to prepare. You need to outline, create notes on the material. The second thing you have to meet, the second requirement is you have to have your top 3 exam score has to be passing, and then you also have to have a passing weighted average based on the rubric. So you have 2 criteria. I've already had this challenge, folks. It goes to a faculty committee, and the faculty committee has ruled in favor of it. It's very clear. Again, I have some slight inaccuracies on this syllabus, but I'm going to be correcting those. They're just percentages referenced in the written material. I didn't realize that. The grading rubric, however, is accurate, and I'll correct these other inaccuracies probably by tomorrow. But the 2 requirements you have to meet: top 3 exam scores, passing weighted average of 59.5 or higher. Overall weighted average, 59.5 or higher. If you don't meet both of those criteria, you'll fail the class. So just bear that in mind. But again, I would argue that's a fairly low bar. Again, I don't want anyone to aspire to those numbers, but I do want everyone to be aware of it. I do this because on occasion I will have somebody who's really good with Excel, and they do very well on the SimNet projects and lessons. But then that actually raises their grade, but they don't have a passing average on their exam grades. They have a failing weighted average, and they have a failing top 3 exam score average. So just keep that in mind, that and that's what this criteria is designed for, to prevent someone from passing just because they're. It's not that that's not important. Definitely want you to be good with the SimNet projects, but that's not, this again, these systems concepts, hardware and software basics, the World Wide Web, the internet. It's important to the enterprise. Identifying competitive advantage, organizational databases, network telecommunications, all of this stuff is what the exam is about. Now, SimLet. I'm going to show you what SimNet looks like, and then next time we meet, we will finish up with SimNet. Once you get your SimNet account, once you're associated with the fall 2018 web course, this is what you will see. Where is fall? There it is. And there we have it. Now, this is not all of the projects and lessons, but it is 5 of them, and actually 6 projects and 5 lessons. So I've got to add the other lessons. So I've got 4 more projects and 5 lessons to add that will show up. And just to give you a quick overview, the lessons are things you do on the server. So I'm going to load a lesson. So here's a lesson. Lesson 1. Actually, I think I have some practice lessons here, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, there it is. Lesson 1. That's it. Okay. Take the lesson. So, and you got show me, guide me, let me try. So, guide me kind of walks you through it. So you click the, first of all, you can do the video. That's what show me is. So show me, nice little video.
When you open a workbook that contains macros, the message bar appears below the ribbon with the security warning that macros have been disabled. Click the Enable Content button to enable macros and other active content. If you do not want this warning to appear every time the workbook is opened, you can make the workbook a trusted document. Click the File tab. On the Info page, click the Enable Content button and select Enable All Content to make this workbook a trusted document.
Okay, and then it will guide you, which means you can kind of walk through. So you enable the content, and it tells you if it's correct. Continue. To begin a new session, click the file. The Enable Content button there. There we go. Oh, there we go. So we've successfully completed the task. And so that's, then let me try. You do it on your own. And so it's, again, a simulated Excel environment. And these lessons are designed around the project. So your projects require some skills, and you do the lessons, and the lessons cover the skills, or at least as many of the skills in the projects as the skills library that I have access to has. So I actually create these. So enable the active content for just one session. So I've enabled it. I always enable this workbook by making it a trusted document. So we're going to go to File, enable all content. So we have successfully completed that task. Now, what just happened is you got that part of your assignment correct. And you see I've got, let's see, so if you look down here, whoops, that was not what I wanted to do. Let's go back. That I meant to refresh. There we go. You see the check mark down here? I need my little pen. Down in the right, opening a macro enable workbook, it's now checked. Okay? So you got a little check down here. So anyway, and you go through all of the lessons. There's no reason you can't make a 100 on it. The lessons are really all about you reading up on what you need to do the, or practicing on what you need to do in order to do the projects. Now, when we come back on Wednesday, I will go over one of the projects. I'll go over the practice projects for you. And that's a little different. You know, with a project, you do the lesson, and then you have to actually download an instruction file onto, say, a flash drive or onto your local PC. You download an Excel file. Typically, it's a start file. It's usually got a structure to it, and you can go in and update that structure. You're required to go in and update that structure per the instructions. And then ultimately you're going to submit that to be graded. And you're going to do 10 of these. If you look at the rubric, the projects carry an awful lot more weight than the lessons. There is a weight to the lessons, though, and that's just so you'll do them. And because I often have students who will ask me questions, and I'm sitting there going, that stuff's covered in the lessons. So, why are you asking me that? And, if it's not covered in the lessons, that's one thing. But when it's covered in the lessons, that's another. And I used to, before I assigned a weight to the lessons, I used to have students ask me things that I knew were in the lessons. So I assigned a weight to it. So the lessons are worth 3 points. There's no reason you should not score a 100 on every one of these 10 lessons you're required to do. If you don't score 100 on them, it's simply because you didn't do them. So those are the lessons, and we will kind of go over how to do the projects the next time we meet. But in the meantime, what to do for Thursday. Read chapters 1, read chapters 2, do the Learn Smart lessons associated with both of those. Have those Learn Smart lessons finished by 6 p.m. Also, begin to acclimate yourself if you're not familiar with SimNet. Become familiar with SimNet by Thursday as well. You actually have a practice project that does not count for a grade, but you can work on it. You can work on the lesson, and go ahead and try the project. I haven't actually gone over the project, but if you can figure it out, then go ahead and do it. And we will meet Wednesday at 6 p.m. again. So this week, 6 p.m. on Monday, 6 p.m. on Wednesday. Now, let's go ahead and take the roll. And all you have to do is click yes. And you don't get any feedback from the system. It just once you click yes, it counts you. That's all you have to do. I see a question, will we go Monday and Wednesday weekly? No, I tend to alternate because I have some, students who maybe work or they have class on Monday, Wednesday. So, probably next week it'll be Tuesday, Thursday. I'll have to figure out what time. I'll be surveying the class to ask what time is the best time for students. So look for an announcement associated with that survey. Also, I'll be updating the syllabus, and the calendar will become available between now and Wednesday. So you'll see a link to that, and the calendar will have dates like exam dates, what materials we're going to cover each day, when the final exam is, holidays, that kind of thing. Okay? Learning objectives. No, that's just showing you what the learning objective is for that particular module. So no need to submit responses to learning objectives. Okay. Well, you have your assignments. We'll see everyone Wednesday at 6 p.m. And again, topics of discussion, business plugins 1 and 2. And we'll do an example of a project, a SimNet project that, can be, that is to be submitted and graded by the SimNet platform. Okay? All right. I hope everybody has a good day. Good day in class tomorrow. See you on Wednesday.